Florida's Fourth Estate with hosts Ginger Gadsden and Matt Austin, the show where we bring Florida into focus.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Florida's Fourth Estate. It is another jam-packed episode, but this one, it's a little different. We're going to scare you.
Get ready, baby.
Get scared.
We're getting our flashlights out. We're going to be... my grandma used to tell a scary story where she would say that there was this witch who scratched the windows, and while she was telling it to the kids, she'd be... I can't do it on my mic, she'd be Oh. It would terrify you. I'm Matt Austin. Glad you're with us. We are talking about haunted Florida, and we are going to one of the most haunted places, not just in Florida, but the place that started ghost tours. Gigi.
Yeah, I think when we were talking to our guy who you're going to meet shortly here, you called it the GOAT of ghost tours,
yes,
which I really liked because, you know, when there's a city that is so old and steeped in history, there's some stuff rattling around down those streets and in old buildings. And let me tell you, I'm not here for it.
Let me tell you, Ginger soaks this ghost stuff up like no one you've ever seen before. She totally believes it. I am an absolute skeptic, not for 1 second. What are you making that shocked face for?
Because I don't even know what you mean by soaking it up. I just have had things happen. You haven't. So
This is Ginger while they're telling ghost stories. I'm checking my phone. so it's
you're rotten.
All right, rotten. I know. But let's start off. We always start off every week with kind of the big headlines that people are talking about. This first one. Oh man, we have had a lot of video on the news of parents who are angry about school things. Politicians on both sides kind of lobbying back and forth. And the closer we get to election, the more they put that stuff out there. Well, Florida has some new rules on things like bathrooms and what teachers can say from kindergarten to third grade. And now the Florida Department of Education is trying to figure out how to police all this, how to enact it, what rules to have. Mm-hmm. So parents were weighing in on this, and it got pretty heated. Here you go.
Talking about is people putting on us unjust rules. Okay. I submit that it is the GOP that wants to rewrite.
We will have to escort you out of the room.
For heaven's sakes, we're talking about teachers who are breaking the law. Yes, they should lose their license, Commissioner.
So obviously, Ginger Gadsden and I are news anchors, and we are not getting involved in opinions when it comes to this fiery debate. But we would be remiss if we didn't just say, hey, this is something that's going on right now, and you're going to be hearing about it a lot throughout the next, not just this school year, but I think this has become something that will be pervasive in politics and in these school board meetings, Ginger.
And here, I'm not going to give an opinion, but I do want to say one thing, that I would like to see this kind of passion and people lining up the next time they talk about teacher pay. Because this is what the teachers have to deal with. And I feel like if we start paying them what they deserve along the line of, you know, Hollywood stars and athletes, then they can put up with all of that. So, you know, I just want to see that enthusiasm when we talk about teacher pay.
I agree with you there. Absolutely. And if you ever, I mean, for our job, we get to go into schools and we get to talk to kids about our job. And let me tell you, I do a little spiel for maybe a couple hours in a few different classrooms in elementary schools and middle schools. Every time I end up thinking, my God, these people are saints. How much do they get paid? They deserve to get paid an absolute ton.
Isn't it exhausting? It's exhausting. And they live it every single day. So God bless them, and we love them all. And we hope that this all works out in their favor and that they can actually do the jobs that they were hired to do, which is teach the kids. Okay, so moving right along, another story that caught our eye this week is, you know, Matt, do you like poetry and romantic walks along the beach? Yes, you do.
You know I'm a big time romantic. Come on.
Okay.
All day I'm here for it.
Imagine walking along one of our beautiful beaches, let's say the world's most famous beach, Daytona Beach, and you stub your toe on something and you look down. Oh, is that a seashell? No, it's 11 pounds of crack cocaine.
I don't think this picture does it justice of how much 11 pounds of cocaine really is.
That thing is huge. You call it a cocaine surfboard.
That was my CG, yes. It is a coke. I bet you could get 2 little feet on this thing and you could surf around.
if you take all of that, you will be riding high. You'll be surfing on something.
You'll
That
wake
is
up in
crazy,
another
but
dimension. That you will.
oh my God. Yeah, for sure. So the guy who found this said he was just walking along the beach and he sees this thing. We see stuff all the time, but we never think to pick it up or touch it unless it looks interesting. But you see something like that, you're like, what is that? I would I probably would just let it wash out to sea, but I mean, it's worth $150,000 on the street. So that is a lot of money. The thing is, I'm wondering if someone's going to come and claim it. If they put it in Lost and Found, it's like, can you describe your
Come get your cocaine. Yeah. What?
It was white.
So many people online are talking about the guy who found it. They're like, wow, he actually called police and instead of cashing in the money. Well, I don't know about you, but if 11 pounds of cocaine fell into my lap, I wouldn't really know where to sell it,
Thank you for saying that on the record here, because I would not. I mean, what do you go to Facebook Marketplace? I don't.
Right.
I mean, I have no idea. But thank goodness he did the right thing. It's not going to be on the street. It's just, they have it as evidence or whatever. And I bet more of this stuff washes up because crazy stuff washes up all the time on Florida beaches.
I laugh every time we do these stories about how politicians are talking about the drug trade going over the Mexico border. I don't laugh because that's not funny, and it does happen. But in Florida, it feels like the drugs can get here in a little bit quicker way. Like when the pallets of it wash up on our beaches every other day. Seems like maybe something we should focus on as well.
Seems like you're cutting out the middleman right there.
Just imagine if one 11-pound chunk fell off of this barge. Was it on a barge of cocaine? Was it a submarine of cocaine?
Was it a
What's the
shipping
rest
container?
of it? Right.
Yes.
Imagine how much is just funneling onto our shores. So,
Okay, you're going to send people on like a scavenger hunt now. Do not go out to Daytona Beach looking for cocaine, y'all. Do not.
it is
don't.
not that kind of party. Yeah, people might think that about Florida if they're not from around here. Other things washing up on the beach, Ginger. I would much rather bump my toe on cocaine than bump my toe on this gentleman. Take a look. This was
you're going to lose your toe.
I think this was out in Melbourne, Central Florida Beach. There was an alligator who had strayed far from home and was out sunning on the beach. Not just a tiny little lizard. If you're listening to this, this gator's got to be 7-8 feet, I would guess.
I thought 9, but what do I know?
You tend to exaggerate a little more than I do.
Wow. No, I don't. But anyway, he
Maybe
looks like
9, maybe a
9-footer.
9-footer.
But however long he is, I don't care. I don't want to meet this thing on the beach. I don't want to meet him on land. And you're what? I did not know they could survive in salt water, but apparently they can, for a few hours up to a few days, they can stay in salt water. The thing that is disturbing about this, Matt, is that, you run into a shark in the water. If you just get out of the water, it's not going to become a land shark. This thing this will run you down on the beach.
It will. Yeah, shark won't get out and chase you. But I don't think gators are really chasing you out on the beach. But that would be a shocking scene.
Have you forgotten some of the stories we've reported on of gators just kind of taking people's... You remember how you said you were going to offer a gator your arm?
I stand by those remarks. If you're in the water, neck high, treading water, and a gator's coming up to you, you better give him your arm. I hope you're never in that position, Ginger, because if you are,
I hope not either.
One of us is surviving, and one of us is getting taken to the bottom.
I'm just saying this thing gives me hope because I'm a big science fiction lover, and there one movie that I love that's terrible. It's called Sharktopus. So I want this gator to go out into the water. Shalligator. That's what I'm calling it.
That's actually pretty good. I like that for a name. If you don't know this about Ginger, you wouldn't expect it about her, but she watches the worst movies and she loves it. There was one about a couch one time that murdered people.
Matt, it's called Killer Sofa. And it's not even a sofa, it was a recliner, but
they called it Killer Sofa because they thought it was a more clever name.
It's probably easier to do those effects on a recliner than a whole sofa. I give people a pass. Whatever. I love it.
All right. Hopefully people will give you a pass.
Okay. All right. Speaking of passes, Matt, this is your time to start believing in the dark side. Because after the break, when we come back, first of all, I'm going to go take off my makeup and we are going to get cozy and scary with some serious Florida ghost stories. Don't go away. Hey, and welcome back to Florida's haunted estate, everyone. Woo! I can't. Matt Smash. I don't even know which. What are you, Matt?
Well, some mix of Frankenstein, Shrek, and the Incredible Hulk is what I'm going for. Ginger actually hired if you're just listening to this, you're like, why are they all giggly? Well, Ginger wanted us to do a little creepy makeup for the show today, and she actually hired a professional makeup artist. It looks like her face is melting off. It's kind of making me a little nauseous, to be honest.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm actually just not wearing makeup. This is what I look like.
This is what you look like without
when I
makeup.
wake up in the morning. I woke up like this. We're super excited because we told you that this edition of Florida's Fourth Estate was going to be terrifying. And we are not kidding. You are going, okay, don't blame us if you can't sleep tonight. Blame our guest.
I think you can blame all of us. And we've got Stephen Mitchell. He has been doing ghosty, creepy tours and things in St. Augustine for many years now. And really, Stephen, thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
St. Augustine is like where ghost tours got their start. It's like the GOAT of ghost tours, correct?
Yeah. That's something that we recently looked into, and as we were looking back at the history of ghost tours and where ghost tours are in this country, we found out that we think the first ghost tours were started in St. Augustine, right there in that beautiful, creepy city where there's so much history and so much happens. People come looking for the ghosts, and they have been for much longer than we've had ghost tours. But the ghost stories just keep building and building, and so much keeps happening there. It's no wonder that hundreds of tours go out on any given night all over the city. It's really incredible.
Yeah, it would make sense too that it would be a place that has a lot of spirit, so to speak, going around because of its deep and long history.
Oh yeah. Over 450 years of history and that's just the European history. There's of course hundreds of years of Native American history before that.
And so I think we should start in a place that's very haunted and creepy. Let's take you to the haunted old jail in St. Augustine. Okay.
Boy.
If you're just listening, we're kind of giving you some visuals of what this looks like. They have some creepy sort of dolls in this place. So, okay, give me the story of the haunted jail. What are people seeing at night if they're there at, say, like 1 a.m, Stephen?
At 1 a.m, actually at 1 a.m, there is a paranormal investigation going on in there every night.
Really?
Every night people are in there from midnight until 2 o'clock looking for the ghosts, looking for evidence, looking for a sign of some sort of paranormal activity, because in that building something happens at least once every 24 hours that nobody can explain. It is truly and certifiably incredibly haunted, very active. Those big heavy doors have been known to swing on their own. Doors that are heavier than any of us, that require a lot of effort to move. Voices can be heard in the building. When you're alone in the building and walking through the building, you suddenly realize that you're never really alone in that building. And so much happened in there, so much suffering and punishment and torment. If those walls could talk, they'd scream.
Oh, wow.
Well, I think we got the headline to our web article. If those walls could talk, they would scream. So give me, like, I know a lot of times in ghost stories, they have, okay, this one particular ghost comes around, and I like the backstory of he was the one who ran the jail, or he had some mysterious love. Have you gotten to know any of these ghosts, or is there one that is extra creepy with a storyline behind him?
Well, there's an entity in there that people tend to encounter. We just call it the crawler, because that's really the best way to describe what it does. It's a dark figure, ominous. It almost resembles something human, and then it moves across the floor, across the wall, up to the ceiling, and it can disappear just as quickly as you see it. But when you see it, you're suddenly overwhelmed with a chill that's like nothing you've ever had before. And then it's gone. But the crawler does appear on a semi-regular basis. People have gotten pictures of it, and when it looks almost human, it tends to look like a masculine figure, a bit like the sheriff in some pictures. Sheriff Joe Perry, the most notorious sheriff there, the longest serving sheriff there. He was the first sheriff of that jail. He was an imposing figure. He was 6'6". He weighed well over 300 pounds. Nobody's exactly sure how much, but his figure is seen around that property on a regular basis too. There he is, right there. That is a life-size figure of him. People sit down next to him and have their picture taken with him. Great big guys look very tiny next to him.
So
But
what I want to know
he is often seen there.
Okay, so when you walk in, there's some places where you walk in and it will make the hair stand up on the back of your neck, right? It's a hair raising experience. Can you actually feel something when you walk into that building, and what is it?
Well, different people react different ways in that building. If people are going to have an extreme reaction, they're going to faint. People faint in that building. But when I walk in there, my feeling is heaviness. Like there's an extra bit of gravity in that building, and suddenly you are very much aware of it. You could be walking through on a very warm day, and all of a sudden you're hit with a cold spot that penetrates you, goes right through you, and then it's gone. But the heaviness stays regardless.
I've heard
the
people
cold chills.
describe both of those things, but people who like really, and I'm going to say I'm a skeptic. I'm about 99.8% sure ghosts don't exist. Okay, I'm just going to tell you that's where I am. But you surprised by that, Gigi? Give me your percentage on where you think.
I'm 100% sure they do.
What? How are you 100% sure of that?
Have you not had any sort of like encounter? There's something you can feel a presence sometimes, but you can't explain what it is. Sometimes you'll hear something will call your name. Have you not had any of this happen to you? I can't.
You've had something calling your name? What?
I mean, not on a regular basis, but it's like, what is that? But Stephen, okay, enough about my encounters.
No, I'm curious about your encounters.
But I understand, Stephen, you've actually had encounters in that jail, so much so that it hurt you, right? Or did you get hurt?
Okay. I've experienced things in there, things that I can't explain. I've seen things in there that I can't explain. But I think what you're referring to is there was a time when I actually got pushed backwards down the stairs. I was going up that staircase. I used to work in that building every day. I was going up the staircase. It was late in the day, and all of a sudden I was stopped, and I could feel that push right on my chest as it pushed me backwards, right back down the stairs. I didn't get hurt. I didn't fall entirely.
Yeah.
I was able to catch myself, turn around, and run the rest of the way. But yeah, I got pushed down the stairs. We're looking right now at maximum security, by the way. Maximum security is a hot spot. In that room right there, a very dark corner, that is solitary confinement. In there, people get experiences. In there and around that door. One of my favorite stories, a skeptic, like you, Matt.
Oh, okay.
Somebody who used to work in that building. I emphasize used to. Largely because of this exact moment. He was standing by the door. He was talking about the room, telling everybody where they were, and the significance of solitary confinement. When a guest was just taking pictures and suddenly shrieked, everybody had to come and take a look at what was on her camera. And this guy, this tour guide, comes over, looks around, and reaching out of the darkness, reaching through that hole, is an arm reaching right for his shoulder.
Well,
and
there's a picture
everybody
of this.
booked it out of that building so quick.
So there's a picture of this.
Oh yeah. You know, Matt, I think you should come up here for a visit. I think we should. I think you should come up here and go into the jail yourself and see if maybe you don't change your mind.
I would like him to spend the night in the jail.
I believe it or not, I've never spent a night in jail. I can tell you that, and I don't ever plan on spending a night in jail. But no, I mean, I would be interested. I don't know. I've never had any sort of experience that made me say, "Oh yeah, that's a ghost." It just doesn't. How bad would it suck? Let me just say this: if you were here on Earth, you lived in this jail, you had this terrible experience, and then for eternity you're stuck in that same jail, that would be pretty horrific.
That would suck tremendously. Yes, you're right.
I'd be reaching at tourists too.
One of the things that paranormal researchers go in there looking for is evidence of energy. They don't necessarily know that it is of a specific person. They don't know for sure that anybody actually spends the rest of eternity roaming around in a jail. But the fact that it's there and it's able to interact with us, and that it seems to be okay with interacting with us and making itself present, showing up in pictures, being recorded vocally in recordings, that is pretty cool.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to send us that. Do you have that picture? Do you have access to it?
I don't have the picture. It was a tourist who took the picture.
Tourist has the picture. Okay. All right, I got you. All right. I was going to say, we were going to put that up.
I don't need to see it. I don't need to see it.
I need to see it.
I just feel like they're tormented souls that walk the earth, and then when they're gone, they're still tormented. I feel like they're still trying to communicate and do something, and I don't know if they're trying to live again and get a do-over, but I just feel like we are a ball of energy. We don't just go away. I feel like some of us who are, maybe not had the best lives on earth come back some kind of way. And I think our punishment is that we just unhappily roam and probably try to frighten other people. Not
try to terrify tourists for the rest of your days.
Something. I don't know. And this is not like, when I thought about doing shows like this for all of October, it's really frightening to me, because if you are a person who believes in that energy and if you've had encounters, it's not anything you want. And I've had friends who've had encounters and they say, all you have to do is ask it to leave you alone. Does that work in the jail, Stephen?
Does that work?
Sounds like a no.
Well, I mean, I can't say that I've had 100% luck with that. I got pushed backwards down the stairs.
You didn't say, "Hey, no pushing me down the stairs."
Maybe I wasn't specific enough.
Maybe. Oh my gosh. But it's one of those things where people are just intrigued, and you do have people who are like, "Oh, this is going to be fun. It's going to be a great time." And then they have one of these encounters and it changes them and it changes their perspective on things. I would imagine that you were not a skeptic to begin with, Stephen, or were you? I don't know.
Well, I was. St. Augustine has a reputation for being haunted everywhere. I mean, absolutely everywhere. One of my first encounters of something I couldn't explain happened in the house where I was living. And the landlord had a upright piano in the living room. And one day I'm walking through the house and I think I hear classical music playing. and I'm looking for a radio. I'm looking for a TV that's on, and I wander downstairs as the music's getting louder, and then I turn the corner, and yep, there's the upright piano, and it's playing by itself. And I kind of had to make a few decisions right then and there. You know, I had to interpret that somehow. My brain had to go, okay, I can't explain that right away. What am I going to let myself believe? So
if
is it a self-playing piano, Stephen? Does the piano play?
No,
itself?
it was not a self-playing piano. Not that I know of. Not that the landlord knew of. But again, you know, what are you willing to let yourself believe? And that will help you interpret other instances when you thought you closed that door and yet there it is open. You know, was it a ghost or did I just literally forget to close the door? The curtains moved. You know, paranormal researchers will spend all day trying to figure out why until somebody figures out that the air conditioning vent beneath them kicked on. You know, sometimes it's explainable, sometimes it's not. But looking for the answer is really an ongoing process for paranormal researchers.
Yeah. Okay. So do you have, so we have the jail, which you have had personal experiences. What is the next biggest haunted place when it comes to St. Augustine, one of the most haunted places in America?
Oh, people love the lighthouse. People love the lighthouse. Going through the lighthouse, you can get all sorts of experiences. The families that used to live and work there, and they literally lived and worked in there. The work was intense, was grueling at times, but this is how they lived their life and what they loved to live doing. They've left all sorts of energies there. There's a lighthouse keeper that used to be known for his cigars, and when you walk through the lighthouse and you suddenly smell that cigar smoke. The park across the street, notorious for a terrible accident that happened in the late 1800s when the lighthouse was being built. The soon-to-be new lighthouse keeper moved here with his family, his 3 young daughters. Was it 2 young daughters and a neighbor? Anyway, three girls used to ride in the rail cart that used to take supplies right up to the lighthouse every day. And they rode it like a roller coaster until it came to the brake at the bottom. And one day that brake failed and they flew right into the water. Those 3 girls are still believed to be playing around that park. And in fact, you can see the swing set just suddenly start swinging on its own. You get these presences that are out there, photographs of children playing that weren't there when you were taking the picture.
Yeah, I think,
definitely a hot spot.
Every city in America, especially one that has a deep history, they all have some sort of entity or some sort of sighting of something that's famous in that area. And St. Augustine has so many of them, again, because it's such an old city and so many things have happened there. What is it that keeps you, Stephen? Because you've had terrifying experiences. You've seen people who have had terrifying experiences. You've seen and heard their stories. What keeps you coming back?
It's home. It's home. The energy here is also beautiful. There's a lot of really wonderful things to experience here, and yeah, you're right. I've moved away a few times, Ginger. I lived in Orlando for a while, loved it, but something always draws me back home. And it's a beautiful place with kind, wonderful people, fun, wacky history, some fun, wacky people, and I always wind up coming back home.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's a very cool place. If you ever get a chance to visit St. Augustine, it's amazing, and there are little jail tours and ghost tours that really make the place cool. And I find it interesting, Stephen, that you do this. So tell us what you do for a living. You've spent a lot of time in these places. What is it? We haven't even really explained what you do. Tell us.
Well, I do work with Historic Tours of America. We have 7 cities where we present historical information through fun, entertaining means. One of our cities, St. Augustine, right here. And for the longest time, I worked with them on the museums and on these old buildings. So going into them and getting to know the personality of the buildings and the personality of the artifacts and the stories and the lives that were lived there, that's fascinating to me.
Yeah, that is fascinating, and I just hope someone like Matt, who is a skeptic, one day comes around to. I feel like he's inviting something to give him a little nudge or tap on the shoulder and say, "Hey, buddy, just in case you were wondering."
I'm not. I mean, I wouldn't say
I'm over here.
I wouldn't say it's an open invite. I'm just saying I'm not buying it. My own experiences, I get. I just feel like a lot of. I've seen, maybe I watch too many of those paranormal shows, like a lot of those shows will be like, all right, we're going to take you inside this creepy old haunted place. And then you go in there and they sort of like, oh my gosh, I felt something, but it was nothing that you could actually see or hear or,
That's what spirits are, Matt.
Here's what I think. Okay. I think sometimes you want to believe something and you sort of can, you can make that happen, Ginger. Am I?
Okay.
No?
You're alone.
They're not all scary, though. They're not all like Ginger's face right now.
That's really scary.
Steven.
Right now, you're otherwise lovely, Ginger. But in the jail, there's an entity that people actually like interacting with called the Whistler. The Whistler is named the Whistler. Nobody's ever seen him or her, for all we know. Who knows? But it'll whistle back a tune. If you whistle a tune, it's known for whistling that tune back. We used to have a professional whistler that worked in the jail, and he would whistle Dixie. And one day he heard it whistled right back to him. That's how we found out about it.
See, that's the kind of thing when you can't explain something like that. I just feel like that's something. There's an energy. There's a presence there. It's like,
families go in there and they know that story, and the kids will try to whistle and see if it'll whistle back.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Well, I think the ghost tours. I will say this: it's a good way to experience history. Like I've done the ghost tours, and we did some in Charleston. Out by my hometown, where my sweet Ginger's from, and it is a blast, and it does kind of take your imagination away, and it's a very fascinating way to teach you about the history and to keep the kids excited about the history. So, if anything, I think there is a positive in this, Stephen, where it gets the kids reeled in, and many adults as well.
Oh yeah. These are real stories. This is real history. Whether you believe in the ghost bit or not, it's still an entertaining and engaging way through which we can tell these stories and learn a little bit about what life was before us.
Yeah, and people remember them too when they're told in a certain way. You're not going to forget, the story of the Whistler or any encounters that you've had. Or the
crawler. The crawler.
Oh
is
my
the
gosh,
one that's the creepiest so far, I think.
Yeah.
Stephen, so okay, before we let you go, what is the creepiest ghost story you have ever heard happening in St. Augustine? I would imagine you've heard them all by now. Which one's the one that keeps you up at night?
Ooh, the scariest, the creepiest. I'd have to say that the energies around the Castillo worry me at times. Those energies will keep me awake at night, especially if I've been out for a late night walk and felt it myself. There is one wall over on the water side of the Castillo that it's got lots of little dents in it. That stone fort was built to withstand cannonballs. You can see the places where the cannonballs would actually hit the Castillo wall and sink right into it because it's porous. But one wall has just all of these little itty-bitty dents all over the place. You get up close to it, you put your fingers in it, you feel it, and then you're told that was the execution wall.
Oh.
That was where they lined people up for execution by line of gunmen. And all of these little dents are where the bullets had hit the wall after they had passed through whoever they were firing at. So walking around through there, people experience all sorts of things, but it is always heavy. Sometimes you can just get a sense for what people experienced there in those final moments while they're waiting for somebody to shout fire. And that part right there, that is worrisome.
Yeah, I was going to say, you use the word worrisome. Like when you're walking around, what do you feel the heaviness again, like you would feel in the jail, or are you hearing something? What is it?
Well, I took a friend for a late night walk once. First visit to St. Augustine. Wanted to see it, hear the history, learn about it, and I said, "You come with me for a late night walk. It's beautiful at night. We'll walk the seawall. We'll look out on the water. We'll get that sense of peace and serenity." Walking by that wall, all of a sudden, she started feeling panic. All of a sudden, she started having a serious emotional event right there. And then she just fell to her knees on the ground and couldn't continue on anymore. I don't know why. I don't know what's going on, Stephen. I've got to go. I can't. We've got to leave. And it was that experience. It was that moment right there. She was feeling the leftover energy, the residual energy that's still lingering there.
Wow. Stephen
I
Mitchell.
feel it now.
Fun to have on a podcast. No fun to take a late night walk with. Stephen, if somebody wants to have a ghost tour with your company, how do they get in touch with you guys?
Ghostsandgravestones.com. It's a writing tour. You get to ride around through the city, hear the stories. You get to go and visit 2 haunted locations. It's an absolute blast.
Oh, it sounds like it. And Matt's got to make his way up there. I'm going to make him go. And,
You got to go with me, Scaredy Cat. I'll go if you go. All right.
Okay, well,
don't want a ghost to melt your face off or something crazy. Stephen Mitchell, thank you so much for joining us for Florida's Fourth Estate. All October,
Thank you.
We are haunting your podcast. So join us with the Florida Haunts all month long. We'll see you next week with another one.
Bye. Boo.